Welcome to BizJet TV. My name is Fabrizio and today's episode is about 9/11, Afghanistan, and the pandemic, and how these three things are going to be affecting your business travel or leisure travel. How's this going to change the way we fly, and what's coming up for the future? So that's what we're going to be looking at in this episode. This channel is all about private aviation and how the business aircraft is a business tool, will help you grow your business. That's what we talk about here on BizJet TV. So let's get into today's episode, and off we go. Marks the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks on the United States, and that really did change the face of aviation and the way we travel. I mean, I remember I used to be able to have passengers in the cockpit sitting on the jump seat, and I remember one flight, one lady was afraid of flying, and so I said, well, bring her up to the cockpit, we'll have a chat with her, and we invited her to join us on the flight deck. So she sat on the jump seat. It wasn't a very long flight, it was about an hour and something. I was flying a Dornier 328 turboprop at the time, and she sat on the jump seat with us, and we said, any questions you have. We talked her through what we were doing, and she really appreciated that. She said, oh, I feel so relieved now, and I'm going to love flying from now on, because I know how things work and I know what you guys are doing up front. So, you know, all that came to a stop once after 9/11, because, you know, they put these special cockpit doors, the codes to get in to the cockpit. Passengers not allowed on the flight deck, not even other pilots from other companies allowed on the flight deck. So, you know, a lot of safety measures put in place, and of course the safety measures for passengers. We all know that, you know, as you're going through a terminal now, take your shoes off, take your belt off, take everything out your pockets, etc., etc. So, you know, it takes longer now to get from the car park to the aeroplane, as I call it, than it did pre 9/11. So, and of course, you know, the whole 9/11 thing had an effect on the economy, on the stock market, and on airlines in general. But, you know, this whole pandemic has had more of a negative effect on the economy and on the airlines than the 9/11 attacks. And also what's happening in Afghanistan right now, the way the US pulled out just like that, by pulling the military out first, causing all sorts of problems, and the Taliban now having taken control of all that military equipment, so many Americans now hostage, and China friends with the Taliban. You know, how is that going to have an effect on that part of the world, but also on the rest of the world? We know there's a bit of a battle out there between, you know, China and the United States. Who's going to be the number one superpower? Is it still going to be the US, or is it going to be China? Now, is this whole situation in Afghanistan going to bring more terrorism? Now, a lot of these refugees are being shipped to different countries. They come in with no ID. We have no way of knowing who these people are. Could they be Taliban in disguise? And could they be coming into the US or the UK or Sweden or wherever, and then striking a terror attack? So are the terror attacks going to come back again? Question. I don't know. It's just, you know, I'm just sort of sharing this with you here, and, you know, comment below. Let me know what you think. Now, private aviation. We saw private aviation start to grow very nicely just after 9/11, with companies like, you know, NetJets come onto the market and grow. Private charters grow because, you know, companies are looking at having their executives travel, and they're saying, well, we don't want the risk of losing an executive in a terror attack on an airplane, so we're going to use a private jet, or we're going to buy a private jet. Well, interestingly enough, now with the whole lockdown, we have seen, you know, the number of ultra high net worth individuals in the world grow. That number is now 520,000, according to the recent Knight Frank Wealth report. And the estimate, according to the report, is in the next 5 years, that number is going to grow by 27%, which is going to add quite a few more of these people to the market. I mean, 143,000, so 143,000 more people worth over $30 million. And I think a good percentage of these people are going to be looking at travel and saying, you know what, I can afford my own airplane, and it may not be a jet, it may be a turboprop. And so I think we're going to see a spike. We're already seeing that right now, where we usually have about 11% of the fleet of private jets in the world for sale at all times. That number is now around 4 to 5%, and on some aircraft it's even just 2%, because people are sticking to their airplanes. So what I'm seeing is, yes, new airplanes are going to be built. I mean, we saw 114 new aircraft delivered in 2020. Prior to the pandemic in 2019, there's about 142 aircraft delivered. So there's about 140 new airplanes delivered every year. So where are the airplanes going to come for the new people coming on the market? So if we're looking at this ultra high net worth market growing by 27% over the next 5 years, that could mean, you know, the need for, I don't know, another 1,500 to 2,000 aircraft over this 5-year period. And I think they're going to come from refurbishing aircraft. And I do encourage you, if you're watching this and you're thinking of getting a private jet and you're looking at the prices of new aircraft and you're saying, oh, this Pilatus PC-24, lovely airplane, it's 11.5 million new. Or, you know, you want to buy a Phenom 300, which is about 10.5 million new. Or you're looking at bigger aircraft, which may cost you $40-50 million. Well, you know, let's take, for example, the Gulfstream G550 market. I mean, lovely airplanes, about $50 million to get a new one. But, you know, you can buy a refurbished Gulfstream G5 for just over $10 million, sometimes even under $10 million. I mean, obviously, we have to be very careful of the condition of the engines and all the rest, and where the maintenance was done, the history of the airplane, what type of refurbishment has been done on the aircraft. But if you take an older aircraft and you refurbish it, it's going to cost you a lot less than a new one. Now, the downside of an older airplane is, of course, it's going to cost you a bit more with maintenance, because new aircrafts come with warranties and that. And of course, you know, older aircraft have to be looked after, and you've got to, you know, spend some money, invest some money on them. You can't just buy an older airplane and say, oh, I bought this G5 for $6 million, off I go. I mean, I've seen that done before. And then the airplane keeps going tech every 5 minutes. So if you do buy an older private jet, you've got to get a good engineer to sit down with you and look at, you know, the scope of work that needs to be done to modernize this airplane. I mean, I'm sure you're going to want things like Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi that works, that's fast on the aircraft. You may want to redo the interior, because at the end of the day you are going to be spending more time inside the airplane than on the outside. But there are things on the outside that need to be done as well. You know, the landing gear, the flaps, maybe the engines refurbished, a new paint job. These are all things. So, you know, the whole 9/11 thing had an effect on the market. It's 20th anniversary. You know, that was a really bad thing, that terrorism. Hopefully this Afghanistan thing is not going to bring terrorism again. But I mean, I think if we look at the pandemic, we look at the increase in high net worth individuals and what's happening in Afghanistan, which will probably, that's my prediction, bring more terror attacks. Those three together tell me, and should be telling you, that maybe it's time to start looking at private jet ownership or charter or fractional ownership. But, you know, flying with a private aircraft, whether it's a turboprop or a jet, that would depend. You can contact me. You see my email here, and we can get on a call and sort of look at situation, your family situation, your business situation, your travel needs, and let's see if we can come up with a solution for you. Because, you know, I think it's going to be a bit of a pain in the neck now flying on the airlines, because, you know, there's going to be flags regarding terror attacks. There's all the situation about, you know, the vaccine and all the things about traveling and COVID testing and that. So going through airports is going to get more difficult as a passenger of an airline flight. But if you fly with a private jet, you can just park your car outside an FBO, which is a private jet terminal. In some cases, you can even drive the car up to the airplane, get out the car and onto the plane. So it's a whole different way of traveling. And if you haven't experienced private jet travel, just book a charter, go on a charter and see what it's like. See the difference. Now, yes, it's going to cost you more, but, you know, it's a whole different kettle of fish. And that's the thing that you need to consider. It's costs what it costs, but it's a different service. It's a different level. It's a bit like having your own chauffeur-driven Mercedes on the driveway or going by bus. If you're going to go by bus, you've got to go out your house, walk for 5-10 minutes to the bus stop, sit there and wait for the bus, and it may not be on time, and then the bus doesn't take you exactly where you need to go. And so you've got all that downtime in between things. You know, the walk to the bus stop, waiting at the bus stop, the bus being late, and then the bus dropping you off, and then from there walking to your final destination. Well, if you have your own chauffeur-driven car, you get in the car, the chauffeur drops you off right outside, takes you from your house to your appointment, you go and have your meeting, you come back, get in the chauffeur-driven car, sit in the back, read a book, get on the phone, get on your laptop, your iPad, whatever it is, and then drive you straight home or to your next appointment. That's kind of the analogy, okay? And of course, a chauffeur-driven Mercedes costs you more than catching a bus. Well, it's the same thing with private aviation. So anyway, comment below. Let's get the conversation going here. If you haven't subscribed to BizJet TV, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Give us a thumbs up and travel safely. And I'll see you on the next one.